Okay, so with that, I think we'll call the regular meeting of Township Council for Monday, December 16th to order. And of course, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, and in particular, acknowledge our valued relationships with the Katzie, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Semiahmoo First Nations. With that, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda, please? Moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Call the question on A1. That carries unanimously. Get a motion to adopt the meeting minutes of the regular council meeting of December 2nd. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Rint. Is there any discussion on B1? Seeing none, call the question on B1. That carries unanimously. We have first item is our delegation from Ashton Kerr. Please come forward. The Lower Mainland Green Team. Great to see you here today.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm really excited to be speaking with you, and it really is an honor. So my name's Ashton, and I lead the Lower Mainland Green Team, which is a program of the charity Green Teams of Canada. And today I'm going to be talking about how together we are realizing our shared vision of a connected, inclusive, and resilient township of Langley, and are having meaningful, lasting impacts in the community. So Green Teams of Canada is a charity that connects people to nature and one another through hands-on outdoor activities. We have two programs, our Lower Mainland Green Team and our Greater Victoria Green Team, and a goal to have green teams across the country. We improve health, we build community, and we inspire action for the environment. It all started here in Langley in 2011 when Lita, our founder, who's actually with me here today and a Walnut Grove resident, when she organized people at Campbell Valley Regional Park to address feelings of social isolation and hopelessness. She brought together 23 people at her very first activity, and it sparked something. It sparked the creation of our national charity that has deep roots here in the community, and it sparked the desire to create and be part of a more sustainable, healthy future. Our partnership with the township is a natural fit because we have a lot of shared objectives and goals. So we are both wanting to strengthen community connections, to enhance health and the quality of life, empower young leaders, improve environmental health, and inspire sustainable habits. Together, we're building a Langley that we are all proud of to call home, and we're creating a legacy for generations to come. So we really focus on real results, not only for just the environment, but on people. Activities such as removing invasive plants, planting trees, litter cleanups, nature walks, community trail building, or working with community gardens, all these types of things, they give people purpose. They foster a sense of teamwork, and they cultivate pride in the places where we are living. This impact is magnified by the staff that we work with at the Township of Langley, whose passion and dedication makes this work all possible and allows us to have such great success together. So we're unique because we really focus on engaging people of all ages, abilities, backgrounds, and experience levels, especially young people who are missing from this type of work currently. Our programs don't just create environmental change, but they transform people. Participants come from Langley and also across the region to create a sense of shared purpose and a responsibility that transcends the borders. Activities help newcomers connect to their communities to build a sense of inclusion and belonging. And by working with the Township of Langley, we are complementing and uplifting work of other great partners and others working to do important things like LEPs in the community so that we can have greater impacts all together. Since 2011, we've been working together, and we've engaged almost 2,000 individuals, most of whom were youth, across 53 activities. These have taken place at the Fort to Fort Trail, at Williams Park, Routley Park, James Anderson Park, Meadows Edge Park, many different places, and it's really left a legacy. It's left an impact of, we've left a legacy of connection and of stewardship. But our work really goes beyond the tasks at hand, and it's focusing on nurturing community pride. It's focusing on empowering people to take action in their neighborhoods and making sustainability accessible for everyone. This year, through our partnership, we organized 6 activities, engaging 257 community members, 70% whom were youth, and a majority whom were participating in the environmental activity for the very first time. Not only did they restore an area greater than about 2 basketball courts, but we also were building confidence increasing self-esteem, and addressing things like climate anxiety using teamwork and the power of making a difference locally. Outdoor experiences, they nurture pride, they nurture purpose, and they support our well-being in ways that being indoors can't. So, starting off at Routley Park, we organized 4 activities this year. We engaged local youth as well as community members, and at our last activity on November 16th, it was pouring rain, but that didn't stop 40 people from coming out to make a positive impact. These types of experiences, saving a tree while working alongside someone new, building a connection, they really leave a lasting impact on us. And when you get to see in just a few hours how we can transform a local park, how just these small actions, they really add up, it has a lasting change. At James Anderson Park, we organized 2 activities engaging local grade 3 to 5 students. And these students not only had a fun time saving trees, they played with creepy crawlies, and we showed them the responsibility that they have to care for the places that they live. We're trying to instill a sense of responsibility and respect so that way this carries on as they're the next generation, they're the future of Langley. And it's very empowering for them to see the impacts that they can have just as with their class and over a couple of hours. We actually asked the students what their experiences were like at these activities, and so this is one of my favorites of a student speaking about the day.
This is one of my most favorite experiences I've ever done in my life, because helping the earth is really good for humans, and if we keep it together, global warming will stop harming the planet.
I was a little bit quiet there, but I hope that you heard that this was the most favoritist experience that he has ever had in his life. And if there's anything that whenever you ask a kid how they feel about something, they always tell you honestly. And so this kid, along with others, they really left feeling a sense of hope. One girl talked about how this was her first time helping the earth, and how it'd be great if we could all help the earth together. And it's not just from these youth that we hear these things. We also hear from the community members that they love the opportunity to meet new people, to build those connections to one another, that they feel like they raise their awareness by learning and trying new things, and that makes them feel good. That gives them confidence in the future. And we also get a lot of media coverage as our team. So we've received 29 features this year for our Lower Mainland Green team, our latest one being in Global News just last Friday. And 2 of those were with the Langley Advance Times, which highlighted the impacts of our partnership and got great coverage for the parks here in Langley, and is really a way to get more and more people involved. So moving forward, we're really excited to be continuing our work with you in order to increase the types of opportunities that we are offering. We are seeing a great demand for this work. We actually have to turn away classes and teachers because there's so much interest to get youth out, but also community members. We're seeing growing numbers at our activities, and we're really excited to help to meet this. But also advancing key objectives and plans such as the Sustainability Charter, the Official Community Plan, Social Sustainability Strategy, Climate Action Strategy, and more. And really, we want to just empower these young change makers in our community and give them, just reinstill hope for all of us, because at a time when you hear a lot of negative things about the state of the world, when it comes to our own health, when it comes to the environment, all we have is hope. And so that's what we are here investing in, and that's what I thank you so much for believing in this and believing in our partnership and advancing our goals together. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, I got a couple questions here. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Yeah, good to see you, Ashton. It was fun working with you guys out there in the park. And you said you had six events here in Langley. Would you see a lot more benefits if you were able to have more events in Langley here?
Absolutely. I think that just as I mentioned with the we have to turn away teachers and classes. We always have an overwhelming demand, and we know that there's more, but really having frequent opportunities, not only for these students to have hands-on experiential learning opportunities, but for the community to come together to foster deeper connections to one another and to place, those have lasting impacts. And that's how we're going to create, we're going to instill environmental behaviors, responsible behaviors that are passed on generation from generation. The city of White Rock is a great example that over the past few years has more than doubled the number of activities that they've been organizing with us. So we're currently leading 9 activities per year. And from that, we went from having, maybe 15 or so people out to activities to having consistent wait lists at every single activity, 50 plus people signed up to get outside in their community. We're seeing people who are coming back more and more. We're seeing people from the wider community who are seeing the media coverage or are walking by and seeing us and saying, hey, great work. How do I get involved? It's really becoming, it's an integral part of the community, and people, it's something that people can come together around and cheer for together. So that's really what we're all about. We're all about bringing people together and giving that sense of hope.
Yeah, just one other question. Are there other things that you can do? Like I battle with Scotch broom at my place. Are there other things that you haven't been able to do? Like I said, I'm familiar with the blackberries that you'd like to do in the township that you haven't been able to do?
Absolutely. So right now we're working with the horticulture and trails departments and organizing things like invasive plant species removals and tree plantings, things which are directly supporting habitat restoration. But there's potential for us to work with other departments, whether it's engineering, recreation programming, special events, to do things such as nature walks, to do litter cleanups, to mark storm drains with salmon, so people are aware that all of the water that goes through those storm drains, they lead to our waterways unfiltered. Opportunities to create outdoor fitness programs and events for youth, for family, for seniors. There's endless opportunities because our expertise, we're community engagement experts. Our focus is people, so that means what we use in order to impact people. The sky really is the limit.
Thanks, Dastin. You guys have great snacks too.
Food is a great way to bring people together, and we want to make sure that people have a memorable experience. And I actually started off as a volunteer myself back in 2018, and then I served on our board for a couple of years, and I was only 20 at the time, and I thought, who am I to be, on a board? But I realized that I had things to add. I had a role to play in my community, and it all started because I joined an activity. I wanted to connect more to this new place I'd moved to. I wanted to get some direction for what I wanted to do with my life. And I felt so centered and appreciated and welcomed. It felt unlike any other type of activity I'd been to before. And I said, I want to come back to this. And each time I came back, I got to meet new people, and I got to see people my age, which I wasn't actually seeing a lot of at these types of activities. And so, I'm grateful that I get to do this as my job now. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that one opportunity, which sort of had a rippling effect for me.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and thanks very much. And it was awesome to be able to get out at Meadows Edge and see the great work that you and your teams do. And it's cool to hear that it actually started in Langley. I didn't know that, so that's awesome. In regards to the relationship with LEPS and the work that you do, because by the sounds of it, a lot more sort of events focused, especially with youth and things like that. Mm-hmm. Where's the overlap? Like, where do you guys work well together? And is there any sort of areas where Township LEPS and Green teams working together could really work to deliver even more?
Yeah, so we've actually worked a couple times with LEPS before, and the Township of Langley, all three of us, because LEPS really excels in that environmental expertise. They bring a lot of ecological knowledge. They have a lot of diverse programs. I love receiving their newsletter every single month because they cover so many different things. But where our expertise lies is being able to bring new people into this type of work. So we really successfully reach people who've never done this before. We have the capacity to engage large groups of of youth and to have just organize a lot of different activities, which sometimes groups like LEPS, they can struggle in getting large groups of people all out. But that's where we want to infuse our community members into their work. They engage a lot of, consistent community members. We want to bring them into that group because that's something special to be part of. So at Meadows Edge, actually, in August of 2023, we worked together with LEPS, and it was an opportunity for people to learn more about their organization. They got to meet Lisa Dreves, who's just a wonderful, passionate person to be around, and that was one way that we were able to bring together our strengths and organize overall a more robust and complete activity.
That's awesome. And yeah, one of the things that I got from that was not only just how much the community enjoyed participating, but township staff as well. It seems like it's a highlight for them to be able to participate. So thank you very much for what you guys do.
Thank you. It really is an opportunity to instill hope for the staff again too. I think sometimes we all get, in any job, you kind of get a little bit of tunnel vision and you forget that there's people outside who actually really care about what you're doing too when you're so focused on the day-to-day. And so it's a great way to bring it back to the bigger picture and say, it gives them an opportunity to practice different skills, like working with, a grade 3 student digging up a root, or, just having fun.
Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, thank you. I just have to say you are a wonderful spokesperson for the Langley Green Team. So thanks for coming. And I haven't told the rest of council this yet, but I about a month ago I met with the Langley Bee Club, and they're very active beekeepers here in the township, and they were trying to co-opt me to somehow find a way that Langley could be a bee city. So I've been working on that a little bit behind the scenes, and I'll be reaching out to our staff to hopefully in the new year bring forward a motion about maybe developing policy around a friendly, what do they call it? Encourage pollinator-friendly horticulture in the township of Langley. So I know that that's probably something that you might, the Langley Bee Club, they might be another connection that they would love to hear from you. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
We'd love to work with the Langley Bee Club and anybody. We're very collaboration focused. We want to bring that expertise with our community expertise. Let's get more people involved.
Yes.
Let's get people aware about pollinators and how, even like things as simple as not mowing mowing all parts of your lawn, or like planting different, flowering species at different times of the year.
And as charismatic as you are talking about this, they are so passionate about bees. So it was really fun actually to learn about that. Anyway.
Perfect bringing together of strengths. Thank you very much for your kind words.
Councillor Ferguson?
Oh yeah, thank you very much indeed. As a former teacher, we should get all excited about these kind of things. We did an awful lot of urban cleanup, and I know LEPS every year, and they go throughout the community, clean up mostly the urban side, Aldergrove side, Fort Langley, and but that's not my question. My question to you is, you guys are the, what they call it, the green teams, right, of Canada. Now, we have 21 regional cities or township. How are you able to coordinate with all the 21 cities or towns or otherwise in the region? We have, I think, 7 regional parks in the township of Langley. That's another body. So there's all different types of bureaucracies you have to deal with. How do you do that? And how can you, and the second question, mostly preempted on the first, where, as a teacher, where do all these kids come from? Do they come from a school or from a community group or organization? And how can you handle them all? Because, being a teacher, it involves an awful lot of work. That's my questions.
So maybe I'll answer that one about the kids first. And so teachers will actually bring their classes out during school hours. We'll organize activities on weekdays and tailor times based on their own class availabilities in order for them to bring the classes out as part of a hands-on outdoor education field trip. And so, part of, we bring staff to our activities who are, trained in community organizing and working with all different ages, all different abilities, people who are newcomers. We're ready to work with anyone and everyone. And we we adapt our programming to make sure that it is understandable for kids, that there are engaging opportunities for these kids. We have different types of things they can do, whether it be a nature scavenger hunt, whether it be, you know, the hands-on work of maybe removing invasive ivy from a tree. But it's really, you know, we do all of that organizing work. The teachers just need to bring their class out, and we take everything else from there, ensuring that we have adequate supervision, that the kids are staying safe. We provide all the tools and the education on how to use those tools, and also why are we doing what we're doing here today. So the teachers, it's a great way for them to, the kids to learn from in a different setting, you know, outdoors, but also from someone different too. I think that can be, you know, valuable too. It's great for the teachers as well.
But let me just preempt that a bit. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 1,000 kids in one school. So,
Yes.
and that's, you go to the next school, there's 2,100 kids.
Yes.
I mean, you don't have the resources to handle that many students or that many.
So right now we're just engaging class like individual classes. So for example, in one activity we might engage anywhere between 1 to 4 classes, whether it be one class staying for a longer period of time, whether it be having 2 classes at once, you know, and then 2 sessions, you know, where you can engage 4 across the day. So, you know, as you mentioned, there's so many students out there, there's so many classes, and that's what we mean for this demand, that there is so much interest for this work. And by being able to offer more activities, we're able to reach more of those interested classes, get more students out.
And thank you very much. You've a lot of passion, very good. I emphasize what you used to do. There's another group that are out there that you might want to reach who used to do an awful lot of that. That the Boy Scouts and the Girl Guides of Canada used to be very, very involved. We have one at Coyote Camp there across the street from Campbell Valley. So those people, another group,
Yeah.
and they probably have the leadership to help you as well. So
We
that's a
have actually
suggestion.
engaged Scouts and Girl Guides for that exact reason. They're also looking for these types of opportunities. We've had a Scout leader actually here in Langley expressing interest to bring their group out, and so there's no shortage of demand for people who want these opportunities. I think what's missing is just the people to organize them, the people who have that experience and that ability and capacity to do so. And that's where we really come in and we bring that expertise. So there's so many people who want to do something, just don't know where to start. But you also had another great point about, you know, the different municipalities across the region and how we work together, you know, as a regional group. And so we aim to build mutually beneficial partnerships that are tailored to each of our partners' needs. So whether that be municipalities, educational institutions, land trusts, businesses, other nonprofits, we work with a lot of different types of people, and we make sure that we identify where our shared goals are, and we decide what we want to do together. So this really is a coming together. So, you know, we work with, you know, like the city of Pitt Meadows, the city of White Rock, the city of Burnaby. We work with multiple departments there. We work with, you know, the city of Richmond. We work with the stewardship group in Vancouver. We're all over the place, you know, and so I think that it really comes down to that, tailoring that approach and just recognizing that we're all in this together, putting everything else aside and saying, look, we really do have the same goals, and we're a lot stronger when we partner up. You know, nobody can be the expert in everything. If you think you are, then you're suddenly the expert in nothing. And so that's where there's so much value in working together with others. And that's why it really is such an honor to work with the township and, you know, all of their very talented staff and, you know, just the passion that they all bring.
Thank you very much, and good luck on your resources.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, that's it. And thank you for your delegation. And of course, on behalf of all of council, thank you for everything you're doing. And one of these days I am going to make it out to one. Always found a conflict, but you can count on me being there shortly. I'm going to find a way to get to one of the next ones.
We really appreciate that, Mayor, and
Yeah.
We look forward to organizing more activities here, just starting in the spring, maybe as early even as February. So I'll be sure to send you all an invite. We'd love to have you join us to really experience that on the ground. There's really nothing quite like it that I personally have found. I think it's just so motivating to be around people, and we all could use a little bit of that.
I agree. Okay, well, thank you again.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thanks.
Take care.
We'll move on to reports to council. Item E1, Agricultural Land Commission application number 100462. Moved by Councillor Rint. Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion? I'm going to clear the queue. Everybody can start over. Any discussion on E1? Councillor Pratt, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Reviewing the report, staff mentioned that our subdivision and development servicing bylaw has designated the property as level 3 suburban, which requires a connection to the municipal water system. The closest water main being about 400 meters to the north on 52. So if this was granted ALC approval, does that mean the proponent's going to be required to pay the full cost of constructing a connection to the water main about 400 meters to the north by themselves?
Through your worship to Councillor Pratt, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on E1. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Item E2, truck parking in the Township of Langley, moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Van Popte. Is there any discussion on E2? Seeing none, call the question on E2. That carries unanimously. Item E3, 2025 Community Emergency Preparedness Grants. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on E3? Seeing none, call the question on E3. That carries unanimously. Item E4, Canada Housing Infrastructure Fund Grant Application. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Councillor Richter, go ahead.
Yes, I'm just wondering what's our likelihood of getting a grant of this magnitude from the federal government?
Mr. Cooner?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, the likelihood of success is high on this application based on the conditions that we're satisfying and previous discussion with ministerial staff in relation to our previous application as well.
Okay, and how much staff time will be required, or has that already been put in?
Your worship to Councillor Richter, could I just get a clarification on staff time in relation to making the grant application itself or in the event we are successful?
Both.
Your worship to Councillor Richter, we can advise council in relation to staff time, but it would be the same time associated with preparing the application. We don't anticipate it being lengthy in nature. And then the staff time associated with distributing the funds and potentially changing funding sources for each project in the event we are successful would be a subsequent report that will be brought forward for council.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on E4. That carries unanimously. Item E5, capital request for fiber optic network improvements. I'll move it, seconded by Councillor Rent. Is there any discussion on E5? Councillor Richter.
Yes, I'm just wondering if staff can advise, do we have the money available in community amenity contributions to cover this $2 million?
Mr. Cooner?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, yes, the funding is available currently in the community amenity contribution to cover the additional funds of $2 million.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, I'll call the question on E5. That carries unanimously. Bylaws for first and second reading, bylaw number 6086-6087. Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on F1? Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I note on page 1 of the report that it says that we're abandoning bylaws 59, 51, and 59, 52. Are there any legal ramifications to abandoning a bylaw?
To your worship to Councillor Richter, the legal ramifications in relation to this is the proponent is proposing a different use than the bylaw that was previously approved. So it's the proponent's request that they're abandoning the previous bylaws, and it's procedurally the correct language to use when proposing further bylaws, and therefore abandoning the previous approved bylaws.
Okay. And will, I noted on the diagram on page 8 that it looks like we're going to need a traffic light at the corner of 81A Avenue and 200th Street. Will that be covered under this application?
Through your worship to Councillor Richter, the subject road pattern would be an extension of 200A Street southbound, as well as the completion of 201 Street, so there's not expected to be any access off of 200 Street, Your Worship.
So there'll be absolutely no egress at all on 200th Street for this property?
Through your worship, Councillor Richter, that's correct. It's actually a rezoning development prerequisite that there's a covenant on title prohibiting access from 200 Street.
Okay, thank you.
Call the question on F1. That carries unanimously. Move on. Bylaws for first, second, and third reading. G1, rezoning application number 100757, bylaw number 6041. Anybody wish to move that? Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Ferguson. Is there any discussion on G1? Councillor Richter.
Yes, I noted the first time that the bylaw went through, we seemed to get a fair bit of public input about traffic issues. Now that these theoretically have been resolved, will we be asking for public input again on this? To see if the public is satisfied with how they're resolved?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, at this time it's coming forward for first, second, and third reading with a condition that's being proposed that needs to be satisfied prior to final adoption. Therefore, there still is an opportunity for the public to send correspondence. However, there is no public hearing that is scheduled for this particular application.
Okay. Can a public hearing be scheduled for it?
Mr. Cooner, go ahead.
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, provincially there may be some restrictions in relation to items that can be sent for public hearing. There may be an opportunity to be sent it for a public information meeting, which is different.
No.
No, I believe we won't be able to then send it as well due to provincial legislation updates.
All right, thank you.
Great. Seeing no other discussion, call the question on G1. That carries unanimously. Item G2, credit card service bylaw fee agreement, bylaw number 6092, moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Van Popta. Is there any discussion on G2? Councillor Richter.
Yes. Now, the 2.2% rate that's in there, will that be increasing with this bylaw fee amendment?
That is the current rate that we're charging for other services in that same category.
Okay. And why are we extending this to cover utilities and property taxes?
There's been a lot of public requests to do that. There are still other ways for them to pay those fees, so they do not incur this.
Okay, but the public has requested that they be able to use credit cards. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no discussion, call the question on G2. That carries unanimously. G3, 2025 revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw, bylaw number 6088, moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on G3? Councillor Richter.
Yes. Now, I was trying to recall, but isn't it usually 25 million that we borrow on revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw?
Mr. Cooner?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, that is correct. Historically, it has been 25 million. And I believe that has been the case for several years. Just it has not been updated, and the staff is now proposing that we updated it to be more in line with the current inflation increases and other municipalities that use their revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw as well.
Okay, so, but updating it, why does that mean doubling it? Because it's going now from 25 million to 50 million?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, this is just in the unlikely event we have to meet our lawful expenditures in the township to pay amounts. We are just increasing the amount now. However, we cannot borrow any further than what is the outstanding taxes for that year in any event.
Okay. And it says on page 1 that this revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw has only ever been accessed once in the last 30 years. When was that, and what were the interest costs then?
To your worship, to Councillor Richter, would have to get back to you on the interest cost, and if any of the staff here know off the top of their head what year that was potentially. I don't believe we have the exact year. We can get back to council on that.
Last year by any chance? No? Okay. And now it says in here as well that the promissory note needs to be signed by the mayor and the director of finance. Is that standard practice? Have we had to do that before when we were borrowing the 25 million? Or is this a new requirement now that we're borrowing double that?
Through your worship to Council Rector, this is in line with Section 177 of the Community Charter, that once Council provides the authorization, then to borrow the money under the line of credit agreement, the promissory note would be then executed by the mayor and the director of finance.
Okay. And then it does say in the report as well that there would be minimal interest costs. Well, if we have to go into 50 million of debt, even on a short-term basis, what would the carrying costs for that be?
Current short-term interest is around 4.4, I believe, 4.4 to 4.6.
4.4. And so because we can borrow 50 million, does that mean we're going to borrow 50 million? Is that what happened the last time when we borrowed on that line?
To your worship to Council Rector, it does not mean we're going to borrow 50 million. Even if the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw allows us up to 50 million, it actually states that we cannot extend outside of what outstanding taxes are owed for that year. Therefore, there's another limit. And staff are not aware at this time historically what year was pulled and how much was actually pulled on the revenue anticipation borrowing bylaw.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions and discussion, I'll call a question on G3. That carries. The Councillor Richter opposed. Item G4, temporary borrowing bylaw number 6089, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Van Popta. Is there any discussion on G4? Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I'm just curious, what's the cost of borrowing, even temporary borrowing, or I should say temporary borrowing, of $74,906,665?
Mr. Cooter?
That would be, again, at the interest rate of 4.4 to 4.6, depending on what it's sitting at.
4.4 to 4.6. Now, we seem to have passed a lot of these temporary borrowing bylaws recently. So, including this one now, what is the total amount of temporary borrowing?
Your worship to Council Richter, temporary borrowing that has been approved or temporary borrowing that has actually been drawn upon?
Temporary borrowing that has been approved by council.
I don't have that total. Sometimes we bring them forward in conjunction with going for final permanent borrowing, so we can do either or. But to date, we've not drawn on any.
Yeah, we have done the permanent borrowing bylaw, though, for this amount of money, didn't we?
We have gone through the process. We would not be able to get permanent borrowing on this until fall of 2025.
Okay, so last meeting we talked about the borrowing being at 668 million total. Is that 74,906,665 included in that $668 million number?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
All right, seeing no discussion, call the question on G4. And that carries with Councillor Richter and Councillor Kunst opposed. Bylaws for final adoption. I1, Council Procedure Bylaw Amendment, Bylaw number 6071, moved by Councillor Rint, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Is there any discussion on I1? Seeing none, call the question on I1. That carries with Councillor Richter, Councillor Kunst, Councillor Pratt, Councillor Martins opposed. That's it for, okay, so Mayor and Council report. Does anybody have a report they wish to make? Councillor Kunst.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge someone in our community who received the H.D. Stafford Citizen of the Year Award. We were all at the holiday dinner at the Langley Chamber, and Andy Schildhorn, and I just wanted to congratulate him on receiving that award. That's all.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. So we're coming up to the holidays and the end of the year, so it's a time to reflect and express what we're grateful for. So Halfway through this term, and for my council report today, I just wanted to quickly say a few words of thanks, mostly. So first, thank you to the staff here, both in Township Hall and at the operations yard, who do the daily and actually hard work of keeping a major municipality running. Our parks and facilities are world-class, our township is well-managed, and projects big and small get delivered because of your hard work, so thank you very much. To my council colleagues, the people to my left and right, thank you for making sure this job is never boring. And I've had the chance to work with almost all of you on something, whether it's a motion or a special project or initiative or sitting together on a committee. So thank you for being in this arena and for dedicating your time to making this community we love even better. And finally, to the public, the reason we do this job, thank you for your continuous open and honest feedback, your ideas, and your support. Even on the tough days, this is still the best job in the world because we get to represent a community like Langley, which is special because of the people who live in it. I'm extremely grateful to have been able to work over the last 2 years on delivering items both big and small. From widening the protective buffer on future protected bike lanes so that more people can feel comfortable and safely choose how to get around, to expanding a future mixed-use village in Willoughby, introducing policies that are already resulting in more homes and childcare space being proposed, and working to deliver a new library in Aldergrove, not to mention all of the other dozens of projects and initiatives that I've been very proud to support. I'm looking forward to the next 2 years of work, and as this is the last meeting before Christmas, I just wanted to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and looking forward to seeing everybody in 2025.
Councillor Bailey?
Sometimes you get some very pleasant opportunities to do in this job, and this morning was one of them. Because of the fact that the city of Langley was very late in paying us monies towards our police costs, they incurred an interest penalty of a little over $27,000. So this morning, the mayor and I were able to present that $27,000 plus check to the Gateway of Hope to help with the extreme weather. It's always running short, and it is for an awful long time been a focus of mine, and know that extreme weather funding is always on the edge. And the Gateway of Hope was very pleasantly surprised, and we know that they, since they're pretty well the sole provider right now of extreme weather, will put that money to very good use, helping the people that are on the street now.
Councillor Ferguson?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a prepared statement, but I did want to say that, number one, is continue on what Councillor Pratt has already said. We do appreciate all the work done by the staff at the Township of Langley, both from the person who works at the front desk to the people who works in the big tower on the 4th floor. We really appreciate all the work they've done, and they've also done an awful lot to dress up Christmas around the hall and around the community as well, so that is appreciated greatly. I also wanted to say, as the years go by, that we're able to contribute more and more resources to people young and young at heart, and that includes anywhere from libraries to parks to recreational facilities. And this term, this council has done a great deal to prepare for the future. It does cost money because things like construction supplies are expensive, interest rates are up, and of course the cost of borrowing continues to be difficult. But preparing for the future is utmost. So that's something we also need to reflect upon as well as we move forward. Reflecting on a particular for projects up by the event center, both ice and flooring. Apparently they're ahead of schedule and they're doing well, so that's always good to know. So I also wanted to wish the public a very, very Merry Christmas, and all those that have served in our community on task forces, on committees, and other things. I noticed some people in our audience today. I noticed one, Mrs. Sherry Baker, who served many, many years helping our community, both with seniors and other other resource. She's worked hard for. I wanted to compliment her for all the work she's done over the years. I've always seen her as being a mini mentor to myself and to others to the community, particularly the work I did as the president and chair of the Langley Senior Resource Center for a number of years on their board as well. So, Mr. Mayor, I wish you, my colleagues, and the public very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous 2025. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Martins?
Thank you. Yeah, I do not have a prepared speech here. I appreciate the comments made before me, and I won't repeat them. I just wanted to highlight that it was unfortunate this past weekend that the annual Christmas parade in Aldergrove had to be canceled because of inclement weather. That is a really wonderful event that really brings community together, and I was happy to see today they have rescheduled it. And it's on again, and December 21st. The party will be happening, the party in the plaza from 4 to 6 p.m., followed by the parade at 6 to 7 p.m. Between 270th and 270th Street in Aldergrove. So I'm really excited that they are able to make that work, because I know there were a lot of people that were disappointed, and particularly the organizers.
Great, thank you. Seeing no other speakers, yeah, I want to thank everybody, wish everybody, of course, great 2025 New Year's Eve coming up, and all the best for a great 2025 and a great Merry Christmas to everybody here, colleagues and the staff and the public. I also wanted to highlight, of course, I echo everything that's been said as well, and also won't repeat it all. But Ms. Bauer, I wanted to ask you again, the staff report count for the year was relatively high, was it not? Versus last year. I think you sent out, or I think there was some email going around that said the number of staff reports in 2024 versus the few years prior has been a lot of work done by the staff. I think the report number was
237.
Yeah, and that was, I think, double over previous years, I think, roughly. So I certainly appreciate all of the work getting these items to council for it to consider, and all the work that goes into the reports and the workload that we're embarked upon currently right now with an ambitious work plan. So I certainly appreciate everybody putting in the time and the effort and their expertise to make it happen. So thank you very much for that, and Merry Christmas to everyone. I also wanted to highlight some of the staff. Appreciate all the work gone into making Williams Park a great event this year, a great location with significant upgrades. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback about that this year. A number of the changes have been made. So I really appreciate everybody that had a part in putting that together and putting that together for the community for this year. And with that, again, wish everybody here a great break and a wonderful Christmas. With that, I'm going to move on to items for information. Does anybody have anything for items M1 through 6? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I'd like to draw attention to M1. And because when I proposed to delay the hiring of the RCMP, the 3 and the 2 in the future years, I had heard by word of mouth that there were 19 vacancies, and I wanted to make sure that this was corrected, and in a update from the RCMP, there are currently 16 hard vacancies that are there. So, we are not exactly getting everything that we're paying for, and this gives a very accurate picture of what the policing in the township is. And I look forward to seeing how this moves going towards de-integration.
Thank you. Councillor Martins.
Thank you. And I too wanted to speak to M1, to the RCMP staffing update that shows we currently have 16 hard vacancies. So my understanding is that if those positions remain vacant, the RCMP reimburses us the cost of each position. That money comes back to us. So my question is, if I may, through chair to staff, is where does that money go, and how have we used it? Probably in the last year or two.
Cooner.
Any amounts that aren't expended would end up back in as unexpended amounts. 50%, at the end of the year, 50% is moved to the RCMP reserve, and the remainder goes to our regular prior year surplus.
Okay, so we're not actually out the money. It does come back to us.
Correct.
fully? Okay. So, and then the other thing I understand too is in order for the RCMP to hire more members, they have to have those vacancies. If they don't have vacancies, they can't hire. And right now, with the Surrey Police Service, now the police of jurisdiction in that municipality, they are slowly offboarding the Surrey RCMP members who have put in their requests on where they would like to work. And a large number have requested Langley. So this is a unique situation where in the past we would have waited for new members to be assigned to us when they graduated from regular training in Depot and Saskatchewan. We now have a unique situation of a whole detachment offboarding. As an example, Surrey will have 35 new cadets in upcoming months here through the Justice Institute, which will mean 35 members of the Surrey RCMP will be offboarded. So if we do not create the vacancies, they can't fill them, and we're going to miss out on this opportunity. So I just want to make people aware of that. And it's been in the news this past week that there's help coming for short-staffed BC RCMP detachments due to this Surrey's displacement.
Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. For myself, I just wanted to ask a question regarding M4, the financial report update, and I just wanted to first extend thanks to the staff for their patience and a lot of questions over the last several weeks and heading into the budget season. Hopefully it's a simple question in regards to the permit fee receipts and the amount that we're over the budget. When we have a surplus for something like permit fee receipts, what happens to the surplus in that department? Does it go back into that department? Does it go into some other fund? Can I just get clarification on that?
Mr. Cooter?
It would contribute to our end of year, prior year surplus.
Okay, so it would go generally into prior year. It does not stay within PLI? Okay.
PLI is just part of the larger.
Got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. I also wanted to highlight M1. I certainly appreciate that. I think there's been roughly that quantity of vacancies within that detachment for the 6 years that I've been on council. And certainly, Ms. Ruff, I believe if there's overtime paid from the RCMP, it comes out of the vacancies amount. What happens when there's overtime billed within the detachment?
Yes, I mean, we end up paying for it, so essentially it reduces that amount.
Yeah, so I certainly am hopeful as well that as the Surrey detachment winds down on the RCMP side, that a significant quantity of these vacancies can indeed be filled. I've been hearing about that for years. Hopefully at some point it may come true. I think also too I've heard from the mayor of Surrey that the wind down of the RCMP is going to be many years. It's not going to occur in a couple of months because command and control has switched over to SPS. So I think if we're hoping that the city of Surrey is going to fill these vacancies, that may take a fair amount of time for that to occur. Perhaps the new OIC can update council on that in the new year whenever that's announced. And certainly appreciate the memo and getting this information on the table for the public and for members of council versus there's other commentary which wasn't entirely accurate. So we're going to move on to item N1. Does anybody wish to move the recommendation? Moved by Councillor Pratt. Is there a seconder to that? No, not seeing the seconder. No, seconded by Councillor Richter. Is there any discussion on N1? Councillor Ferguson.
Yeah, I just wondered if, with this type of a motion, that we could refer this to staff for a memo so they can educate us to, how we could proceed accordingly. And if that's an amendment I would make.
If you wish to make that referral, there's no other speakers, go ahead.
Yes.
So what's your referral to get a memo from staff on this item? Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Bailey. Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Ferguson. That's it. Any discussion on referral to get a memo from staff? Seeing none, call the question on the referral of N1. And that carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Item N2, does anybody wish to move that? Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Pratt. Is there any discussion on N2? Seeing none, call the question on N2. That carries unanimously. Councillor Rent, you got a notice of motion.
I think it speaks for itself.
So you wish to move that?
I wish to move that.
Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Van Popta. Yep. Is there any discussion on 01? Councillor Richter.
Yeah, I was just looking at the policy, and we've already amended it twice this year, in April and again in September. So I'm curious why we need to do it again for a third amendment in 1 year. Like, what's the real agenda here?
Mr. Cooner? I mean,
Well, I think it's Councillor Rent's motion.
do you wish to answer that, Councillor Wint? Councillor Wint is not wish to answer that, Councillor Richter.
He doesn't wish to answer a question about his notice of motion.
That's correct.
Well, that doesn't seem very democratic. Okay.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, at the appropriate time, I'd like to move an amendment.
All right, I got one other speaker. Maybe put you down here. What are we? Oh, one. Great. Councillor Martins?
Yeah, actually, I'll wait for that amendment before I speak.
Councillor Pratt?
I also have an amendment.
Okay. We'll go back to Councillor Bailey. Go ahead.
Yeah, could you put that amendment up, Ms. Bauer, please? Yeah, so you can read it there, and when I was looking at this, I was thinking, since it's the taxpayers that are funding these kind of things, I think they should also know who it is that that we're expensing to. So,
All right. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Rent. Yeah. Go ahead, Councillor
so
Bailey.
I'd like, I think it's proper that that we report on who we're expensing meals and stuff like that.
All right. Councillor Pratt?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And just a question of clarification to whoever wants to answer it. With this motion and this amendment, it addresses section 3.3. So specifically for Councillor Bailey's amendment here, required to report the names for the individuals for those expenses while away out of province on council business. Because both clauses of the original notice of motion address specifically section 3.3. So I'm just curious if we're broadening it to all council meetings within the province whenever you're on council business.
Yeah, I think that there's some confusion, of course, with the motion being specific to that, but the amendment looking for staff to consider a wider scope. So I think staff can sort it out that, either look at amending section 3.3 to include that or come back with a version that accommodates any amendments.
So I guess the question is clarification. Is the intent for this motion, this amendment, to apply broadly speaking to all council meetings, lunches, et cetera?
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, if you're expensing something, I think that people have the right to know who you're paying for. So all broad, yes.
Yeah, broad. So I think staff can take that under advisement, even though we could try to fix every word, but I think staff get the idea, and we'll come back with an
I appreciate the
amendment consistent
clarification.
with any amendments. Yeah. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Councillor Richter, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I would be concerned about FOI on this. So if staff are going to be reporting back on it, can they look into the FOI aspects of it as well?
Mr. Cooner, I don't believe FOI would apply. I think the intent here is that it would be disclosed along with the councillor's expense statement. It would not be, there'd be no need to FOI it because it would be publicly available.
No, but you're naming names.
Mr. Cooner?
To Your Worship and Councillor Richter on this point. So essentially the notice of motion itself reads that it's direct staff to report to council. We'll definitely be seeking legal opinions in relation to the validity of the amendments and the what scope can be given within the policy. In relation to FOIing, that would be a separate discussion, and there's certain restrictions in relation to personal information and privacy when making FOIs. So we would closely monitor that situation as well, but making sure that there's any personal or private information in relation to residents being protected.
Yeah, so Mr. Cooner, I guess in that when councillors' expenses are disclosed publicly, some items, if this were to go ahead, would have to be redacted potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah, potentially. Councillor Martins?
Sorry, just following up on your comment right there. So in that case, then who would have access to that information? if it's not to be released to the public potentially? Who's looking at it?
Mr. Cooner?
Your worship, to Councillor Martins, we would have to review what that would more than likely just be accounts receivable or accounts payable, if I'm getting the two mixed up here. But it would go through the regular channels of processing the expense sheets.
Yeah, and I asked because I'm trying to understand then the logic of the motion. If it's not available publicly, potentially, because of FOI, who is it that cares to know? Because I thought the point of the motion was transparency to the taxpayer, which I appreciate. So I'm trying to understand this.
So I guess maybe it's just, that's a good point. I think the report back to council can cover this issue, and if it's moot and serves no purpose based upon provincial legislation, that can be addressed in the report.
That is correct.
Yeah. Councillor Ferguson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just, this actually seems more like something that, more like an unwritten law, and I guess something that, a rule or something we've mostly done, I myself and perhaps others, on their own anyway. So if usually I meet with folks, and because we already have a remuneration from being a councillor, I usually don't charge. I just pay out of my own pocket, which I think a number of other councillors do. But if I'm meeting someone, I just simply have always put the name of the person, and I never worried about it in the past. And I've even been, because I couldn't use my own credit card or something on somewhere, I think I was in the States a number of years ago. I either left it in the car or forgot to bring it with me, and I used a corp card, and I put the name of the person who was using it. John Smith was ABC Engineering. We were talking on a liquid waste project that was being designed in, I believe, Portland, Oregon. So, that's what I wrote down, and it seemed like the appropriate thing to do. And if we meet anybody, just write the person's name down. I think we're always looking for transparency. I just think that's something we should do anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, so it's interesting, this conversation about travel and expenses and money and what people are spending and how much people, we could talk about what people are making at this council table. And some of the notices of motions that have come forward is been quite interesting this past year. Would we then want to amend the travel allowance for people that, so do we highlight everywhere we've been that month? Because we all get about $340 of travel. And some of us go to events and some of us go to very few events. So should we just, write down everywhere that we've been as well for transparency, if that's what we want to do, if we want to get really transparent about the money that is being allocated to each individual councillor. We are really going deep here. This is really interesting.
Councillor Van Popta? Oh, it's all right. Didn't know if you're finished now. Go ahead.
No, I'll vote for it, just to, I don't expense much, so, I just put that out there.
Councillor Van Popta?
Yeah, the travel allowance is actually an opt-in, opt-out, so I think it's not really a blanket statement that we all collect travel allowances.
I agree, because not all of us do. Councillor Bailey, go ahead.
Well, I didn't expect this to generate much opposition, because I have zero problem with saying if I'm, and I can't remember if I've ever done it on the credit card, who you're expensing to. We all sit there and we hear people talking about politicians spending money recklessly and not being accountable and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, why not put it out there and say, this is what I charged against this meal with this person. I thought it was rather straightforward and very easy to speak to.
Yeah. Councillor Martins?
Yeah, I'm going to take issue with the word opposition. I don't think it's opposition. I think we're all sitting here bantering this out, trying to consider how it works and if it can work and why not. Hey, if you guys want to know who I have coffee with, I'm happy to tell you. I've just been following a process. I didn't know I needed to give a name. Why are we complicating it and trying to cast darkness on people who are maybe just doing what they thought was procedurally correct? So I I could take exception to the suggestions that people are intentionally withholding information. Just making sure, again, when we talk about FOIPA legislation, that that information can actually be disclosed, and if not, it's a make-work project. But I'll be happy to, on every single receipt, make sure I let you know who I'm having coffee with, if that makes you feel better.
Yeah, no, I think you're debating something that wasn't stated. I didn't hear anyone say that, but I think the opposition is making comments and good questions. I don't see any issue. I think you're having a debate with something that wasn't said. So with that, I'll call the question on the amendment. Let's see, where are we here? 01. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Does anybody have anything else? Oh, there, Mr. Councillor Pratt, I believe you have something. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Ms. Bauer, if it's possible, please.
No, there it is. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm looking at the wrong one. So this amendment, just preemptively to clear up the question I had before, would apply specifically to section 3.3.
Okay.
That staff provide council with a list, if possible, of other Metro Vancouver municipalities' policies regarding travel expenses alongside the potential amendments to Township of Langley Council policy.
Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Martins. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the amendment speaks for itself on that one.
Great. Any other discussion on the amendment? No. Call the question on the amendment to 01. That carries with Councillor Bailey, Councillor Rent, Mayor Woodward, Councillor Van Popta opposed. So now back to the motion as amended. Councillor Pratt, did you have anything else as amended? No? Councillor Martins?
Yeah, I'm just looking for clarification, if I can, through the mover, how he arrived at the amounts in this motion. Where it came from, and are they intended to include conferences, or is this over and above conference costs that have already been approved?
The way I read the motion is that it would be over and above
Okay.
conferences. This would be just random expenses that I think are a regular course of business, over separate from the travel allowances. I think I understand it. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that helps.
All right. Seeing no other discussion, call the question on 01 as amended. That carries. Councillor Richter opposed. Is there any other business? I have one item. Mr. Cooner, as Councillor Martins mentioned, we did receive correspondence regarding the rescheduling of the the Aldergrove Parade. And so I'm wondering if you can have them get a timely response that that's going to be acceptable, going to be approved, and going to be available to conduct that next weekend. I don't know where staff are in that process, but if you could have that expedited to get them an answer one way or the other as soon as possible. Yeah.
Well, duly noted.
Yeah, great. Councillor Richter?
Yes, it was mentioned earlier that $20,000 roughly, which were late fees from the city, were given to the Gateway of Hope this morning. Was this authorized by council? Is it council policy?
Mr. Cooner, Mr. Councillor Richter must have maybe not been present. There was a motion of council that if that money was paid, that it was authorized to go to the Gateway of Hope.
Okay, so the money was in fact paid. We did receive the money from the city?
To Your Worship, to Councillor Richter, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kunst?
Yeah, we all received a letter in our distribution from Diane Kask, and I just wanted to highlight and maybe inquire about a flashing pedestrian light at 264th. And what is the likelihood of us being able to do that? Would there be a reason that we can't do that on the 264th? Anyway, I just wanted to highlight that there was an accident there, and someone was struck, and she's just inquiring about us putting a flashing pedestrian light there.
Dear Worship, to Councillor Kuhn, staff will review Ms. Kask's request and ensure that if there is, if we can implement those measures, then staff will do so. If not, and there's certain policies or traffic management procedures that need to be followed, then we will advise her of the same.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, speaking of that same letter, I was looking at that, and that is a controlled light currently. And I'm actually kind of worried that, because I've never seen another flashing pedestrian light at a controlled light intersection. So I worry about the possibility of, if it's the only one and it's very unique, confusing drivers. Here all of a sudden there's a new thing. So I would really like staff to look into, are there other intersections that have this? And if so, what are the possibilities of it being actually making that intersection a little more confusing and a little more dangerous? Because I can't recall an intersection where I see controlled lights and a flashing pedestrian light also. Usually those are the intermittent green light is a pedestrian controlled light. So if staff can have a look at the possibility of that actually making that intersection a little more dangerous and harder to understand.
Okay, great. Any other business? Does anybody have any items for special closed? Ms. Bauer, I've got one intergovernmental, one legal, and one personnel. Does anybody else have any items for special closed? No? Get a motion to resolve into special closed? Moved by Councillor Pratt, seconded by Councillor Bailey. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Get a motion to terminate? Moved by Councillor Rent, seconded by Councillor Van Popta. All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Thank you.